So, Jim Dale, first of all, welcome back on the show. We spoke to you a few weeks ago.
Yeah, hi, Ben.
Yes, indeed. Our weather doesn't seem to have improved since we last spoke. There are a couple of decent days.
I think it has. I think it's turned a bit of a leaf, to be honest with you. It's going in that direction, certainly, and I think people will enjoy today, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's getting drier, I should say, from the early part of this week. Not especially warm, but there we are. The reason you're on is we said we'd get you on this because you said you had a new book in the pipeline. The launch date has now been and gone. I believe it was this past Thursday.
July the 9th. Yeah, that's
July
correct.
the 9th. Yep.
Yeah.
Tell us all about it. I mean, we've got the cover behind me for those who can see the video.
Yeah.
Here on
Whether
YouTube.
or not. Whether or not. Play on words, of course. I'm a meteorologist, and I think everybody knows that by now. It's the book is it's a funny old thing. This is a book about my life, believe it or not. But it's not an autobiography in any sense of the word. There is one chapter, Me, Myself, and I, which talks about myself and how I got into meteorology, Royal Navy, and afterwards and formed British Weather Services. All of that is in there in one succinct chapter. The other 20 chapters are about everybody else's life, and I mean that in the broadest sense. So if I said to yourself and listeners that the weather is the most impacting factor on our life, the most external factor of what we do every day, bar nothing, and that does include where we are at this moment with the virus and all the rest of it. I recognise that's overtaken everything, but even the weather's played its part within the virus, if that makes sense. And there is a chapter on health and well-being within that. So it really takes a panoramic view of weather and climate change in terms of how that impacts us on our daily lives in every aspect you could think of.
I've started to read it in the last couple of days, and it's good. And what I like about it is in the early part. Obviously, we don't want to give too much away here, but you set the scene of that you're going to take the reader on a journey, and I like that aspect of it.
Yeah, I'll give away the fact we get on a little cloud, a fluffy cloud, and I say, come on. And first and foremost, we go back, because in order to learn, and it is a little bit of an educational book, this one. I like to think schools, universities, colleges could get hold of it and use it rather than just talking about fronts and lows and highs. I think it goes a little bit deeper than that. But I take you back, first of all, because, to take you back means you learn from the past. You learn from what's gone on and how in prehistoric times people used to equip themselves, Stone Age people used to equip themselves, and weather was so important to them. It was the be-all and end-all in terms of their survival. So it really is manifest. And I think to a degree, we've kind of lost that as we've gone forward. People who run businesses nowadays, many of them sort of override it and sort of think, well, I'll just use it as an excuse when the weather's bad. My company didn't do too well. You hear CEOs quite often coming out with that one, and I think there's plenty they can do. So it is a business book, it's an educational book, but it's also a book for the bed table, as you're finding out.
I am finding out and enjoying it thoroughly. I got me thinking about the weather the other day and the impact that it has on our lives. I am an absolutely mad, passionate sports fan, and particularly cricket and Test cricket. And we'd gone through the whole summer months without any kind of live sport or live cricket. And England are playing the West Indies. The match is going to go ahead. They've put all the things they need to put in place to make sure it's a safe environment. And it rained all day the first day of the match. I was just like, this is just typical.
Of course, and cricket is right at the very top of the apex of weather impacting sports, if you like, right at the very top. If it rains, essentially, especially a test match, you don't get any play, and there's nothing worse than that. Mm-hmm. From a betting perspective, so there's two chapters in there, one about sports and the relationship with the weather, various ones, particularly football, but the other one about sports betting for any people who like a little flutter here or there, or a big flutter if you're one of those people. I do go into detail, and particularly on the football side, about how the weather affects the different things that go on within the betting market, the markets themselves, all the various markets. But just to come back on the West Indies versus England game, it was entirely possible, knowing that first day was going to be a very, very troublesome day. We saw that 4 or 5 days before it actually happened. to back the draw. It's called backing the draw. So in other words, you think, okay, let's back the draw, and then before a ball is ball, lay the draw. So you end up on certain screens as what's called green, all green. It means you got to profit whatever happens, and that's an ideal position. So there is some method to the madness.
I'm an ex-bookie myself in a previous life, so yeah, I do know exactly what you say as far as that goes. And of course, from the betting point of view, which you mentioned in the book, one of the key factors in traditional betting, which is horse racing, is the ground, and you can't have the going or the ground without the weather because it affects it.
Yeah, correct. And I do mention not so much the horse racing, but the greyhound racing, which is 4 legs, is very similar. I mentioned in there about the tracks and what advantage there can be when it actually rains, and which are I think they call them stalls, don't they? The 6 stalls
traps,
that are in there.
Traps.
That's the one. Yeah, traps. Yeah. The 6 traps, and which one you want to be in and which one you don't want to be in, just to give you, because this isn't, there's no panaceas here. I don't come in here saying, oh, the weather's the key to your glory and riches and all the rest of it. I might be in the West Indies with my feet up on a pina colada if it was all that easy. It's not. But nonetheless, what weather gives you, and the weather edges, if you know them, the tricks of the trade, if you like, and there's plenty enough in the book, it gives you an edge. And that's the important thing as far as, if I use the word punters, betters, you all like to get a little edge. You all like to know an inside track, whether it be sports betting, or there's another chapter about the economy and financial trading, which is another one that gets involved with the weather from time to time. And if you think about hurricanes and things like that, and how they may affect certain markets and certain shares and stocks, that type of thing. Global warming goes with it as well, climate change, and the direction of travel, what we're all doing. So plenty to read about in that one.
Absolutely. Have you got anything in there deeper in the book about the social aspects? I mean, something that's just come to my mind. It's the weather is the perfect icebreaker, isn't it? If you're starting off a conversation, or you're starting to tell a tale, a lot of the time you set the scene with the weather, don't you?
Yeah, and I think that can be a little bit inane sometimes. Yeah, it's a nice introduction for people. It's an easy one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Standing at the bus stop, and you can say, "Oh, the weather's, whatever." You go down that channel. It's an easy one. I'd like to think you can go a lot further than that. I do have a chapter, health and well-being, which takes in all of these sort of. It goes deeper than what we've just talked about, but it does go into the sort of psyche of what the weather actually does. When you open the curtains in the morning, or the blinds, and you look out, how do you actually feel? And I go into detail in terms of what that might actually impress upon you psychologically, and then what you might actually end up doing in terms of your day. In other words, what you're going to buy, what you're going to eat, what you're going to drink, whether you're going to get an X transport or Y transport. It really, really, truly guides us as to what we do. So it goes beyond there. It does mention other aspects of it, including the climate change aspect, and what that might get us to in terms of personal health and diseases and all of that. And we can talk viruses, and we can talk all of that going forward, and it's in the book. I was writing this book during the virus, obviously, as it was coming of age, if you like, and that sort of, how can I put this, as it became more manifest in the book to a certain degree, if that makes sense. But it really lent itself, because within this virus that we're in this moment in time, I know full well from friends and relatives and what have you, that the spring that we had, the late spring, particularly when the virus got going, the weather was a godsend. It really was. It was number 2 in terms of category talking out there, for people to be able to get out and exercise, or even to just sit in the garden rather than to be penned in, if you could do that. And I realized some people didn't want to get out, but at least it was there, and it wasn't howling down and wet and windy and everything else that goes with it. That's why it's so important.
Whether it's in the book or not, obviously I don't know. I haven't got far enough into it, but are you able to kind of either prove or dispel the thoughts about the weather being an impact on things like viruses and flu? So it's like, if it's like the flu particles travel better in the warmer air, so you're more likely to catch something in the summer as opposed to the winter.
Yeah, it is in the book. It kind of broken up in the book. It kind of replays itself occasionally. In the health and well-being section, I do talk about the Black Plague. the bubonic plague from previous histories, centuries and what have you, and how that was carried on ships and rats and fleas and all the rest of it, and the fact that the winter came along and it actually killed the fleas, killed the, to a certain degree, so it went down. So there was a good reason for weather playing its part in a good sense. On the other way, when it was hot and humid, etc., it kind of it goes the other way. And I'll just give you a little, this is very recent, anecdotal sort of thing from America at the moment. They're experiencing in the southern and Midwest states 100-degree temperatures and very high humidities in certain areas, and people are going in rather than out as they would. And spikes are occurring in the virus simply because people are going inside rather than sitting in what you might call a slightly safer environment outside, which is all we know. We know that is the case, that if you're outside, it's not safe, but it's safer. And therefore, there's a double play here going on with the weather in terms of actually sending people in, and the virus spikes in those southern areas.
But the president's an expert, isn't he? He keeps telling us. he knows.
Yeah. Okay, should we pass?
He said it would be gone by Easter because the weather's going to get warmer. So.
Well, I think he does get a mention, perhaps not by name, but he certainly gets a mention in the climate change side of things on the last chapter.
Yes, I'm sure.
Beaten by the dinosaurs, I think that chapter's called. So
right, that tells its own story. So, just the process of, is this the first book you've ever written and had published?
Yeah, it is, and as I mentioned in the first place, Ben, it was a case of bringing all my life's experiences together, if that makes sense, and knowing. I'll give you a very good one that people might be slightly, you might blink at this one, and that's there's a chapter on legal weather, I like to call it. What's legal weather? Well, I'll tell you what legal weather is. Legal weather is when I get involved as an expert witness in terms of weather-related cases. So, for example, road traffic accidents. So there might be an argument. Was it wet? Was it frosty? Was it icy? Was the sun through your front window screen, so you made the turn and crashed into somebody who was coming down the other side of the road? It does happen, as we know in reading the newspapers. And I have ended up in court many times for giving evidence, and it goes further than that, because road traffic accidents are one thing, murder, manslaughter, all weather connotations in one shape or form. I've ended up as an Inspector Clouseau before now at the scene, doing my little bits and pieces, and it's quite fascinating. Probably one of the most fascinating areas I can think of. But the diversity of where I've been involved, from Formula One teams, world rally teams, Royal Navy down in South Georgia and Falklands, all the way through to what I've just mentioned, and what I do at British Weather Services. So even racing pigeons and day-to-day forecasting for farmers, agriculture, it's kind of all in there. And more.
Got a 5-star rating on Amazon.
Have I? That's nice.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, I've just seen it. So.
Okay, early days.
I'll
tell you this: anybody who buys this book, Ben, anybody who buys this book, I want you to, once you've read it, I do want you to leave reviews. I'm sure you will, Ben. I'm sure you will. The reason for that is that I don't want to write a book and think, oh, I'm great. Oh, that's my life, or that's all about, weather impact, and you should read it, and it's important. I hope people read. I hope people learn. I really do, and especially students, going forward, and teachers. So that education side, and especially people in business. And I want you to leave the review simply because it tells other people what you really think, not what I think, not even what you think, Ben, but what they think when they've read it. Because it's not a book that is stoic. It's not a book that is a plodder. It's an easy read. It's an easy read. Okay, when you get into that sports betting bit a little bit, there is some facts and figures and things you probably have to get your head around a little bit, and other places. But there's some quite entertaining little bits in there. There's a chapter on surviving hazardous weather like tornadoes, avalanches, what to do if you find yourself in, how you can best survive, and all the rest of it. So it's almost like a book for your back pocket if you're happening to go to these sort of areas and say, okay, I'll take that with me, because if I read that, I'll know what to do. And if I say this, I even educated myself in writing it if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I learned a lot, even though I've learned a lot over the last 30 years in terms of being a meteorologist, a consultant meteorologist now. So it was enterprising in more than one ways, and I hope that will come across to people who actually read it.
The book is called Whether or Not, phrased as a question. If you're searching for it, weather is not done W-H-E-T-R-E. It's done as in the weather. So
yeah, whether or not, a nice play on words. It's for anybody. Well, you can't see it, but it's a blue book. It's a blue background and orangey sort of and white, and there's a couple of pair of dices on there. And just so you know, don't go necessarily searching in the W.H. Smiths or the Waterstones bookshops of this world, because they're behind in where they should be because of the virus and all the rest of it. So, but it is online, and it is online Amazon and Waterstones, W.H. Smith. There's another one, Brown's. What is it? Brown's. I've got to think of what this is now. It's Brown's Books for Students. Right. Brown's Book for Students. The reason I mentioned that, they put a big discount on there, so you can actually get it a little bit cheaper. Actually, 30% cheaper, which is probably what they get. I don't know how it works on their side, but certainly worth digging into the internet and looking around for that. But it's not so expensive, and it's a good little read.
Indeed. Jim N.R. Dale, the founder and consultant meteorologist at the British Weather Services, author of the book Whether or Not. Thank you very much for joining us on the show.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Ben.